everybody! Welcome to GVN Radio. I'm your host, as always, Fight Club Hubs.
This is JT.
And we have some special guests with us today. We have Dave and Joe from GameSack. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Good. Very good. Thanks for having us on your show. We appreciate it.
Yeah. It's an honor to have you guys on the show. You've definitely been catching the eye of many YouTubers the past several months with your amazing videos that you've been putting out. I'm definitely a big fan of your videos. I really enjoyed your last one, which I don't know if anybody else in the audience has seen it yet, but it was pretty epic graphically.
Yeah, if they haven't seen it, they should. I don't know what they're waiting for.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyway, starting off the show, we are actually not going to be talking about any gaming news because, well, this is completely dedicated to you guys. So starting off with the interview, who approached you first in terms of wanting to do this? How did GameSack come about?
Well, believe it or not, it was mostly Dave's idea. He probably doesn't even know it. but a long time ago, he came up with an idea. We should do like a YouTube show where we talk about games, and the idea was kind of like a point counterpoint. You remember that?
I do remember that. Yes. Yeah.
We just argue back and forth. It didn't matter what the views was. You know, one of us had this view, and one of us always had the opposite view. And you know, I just like, yeah, okay, maybe. And then we just kind of let that sit on the shelf for like probably over a year.
Yeah, it was a long time.
And then for whatever reason, we just decided to do a show, a real show, like what GameSack is. And the first episode was shot on the day the 3DS was released, actually. And we thought of the name GameSack. We were going through like an online thesaurus. We wanted the name game in the title, obviously.
Yes.
And we were like, but we kind of wanted to be vulgar with it.
So it's the thesaurus. And
yeah, so we were like, you know, one of the ideas was like game squirt and, you know, stuff like that. Like, I don't know. And it's just, we were just going through and just finally settled on GameSack, and then 10 minutes later we turned on the camera and made the first episode.
Yeah, and it was a definite eye-opener on what we're doing and trying to do. And, you know, that first episode, if you saw it, we're like doing an unboxing on Sega Menacer and Super Scopes. It was pretty goofy stuff, and you know, but that's how it happens. You start and then you kind of evolve and you know, figure things out along the way, and so far we're doing all right. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, we should someday remake that Menacer versus Super Scope video.
Yes.
Maybe.
It's be popular.
Yeah. Do it.
So you guys finally got together, you created your first episode. Now, growing up, what did you guys play? I'm like, your personas are that one's a Sega fanboy, one's a Nintendo fanboy, so like obviously you guys decided to develop that, but apparently you also exaggerated the fanboyism to some degree in your videos. So what was is that mainly what the scope you wanted to focus on?
Well, it is to kind of cause a little controversy on the show, to get, I think, people like to have are more interested in controversial issues. So we kind of played that role, but in actuality, I know I'm a big fan of both Nintendo, Sega, and even Sony. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I like Sega a little more than usual stuff, but like when we were dude. Anyway, but when we were growing up, at least when we got to high school anyway, which is when we pretty much got into video game. He had the Nintendo, the NES, and I had the Sega Master System. Yes. And, you know, I don't know how much we really talked to each other at that point. But
we didn't really talk to each other. What we did is Joe made these things called a junk tape, which was basically him showing off his prowess playing Sega Master System games.
And Genesis games.
And Genesis games. And then he'd send them to me, I'd watch them, and be like, ooh, that's awesome. So then I'd make some videos of me playing Nintendo games, and he'd take them home and probably, you know, not watch them and say he did or something.
Just throw it in the trash.
No, but what was funny is I remember bringing the first time I actually came over to your house, because, you know, I lived like in Lakewood and he lived in Arvada.
Yeah,
they weren't close.
It's like a 15-20 mile.
Yeah, it was like during Christmas break, and I brought up my Sega Genesis, and like with fun games like John Madden Football, Sport of Vermilion, and
Zany Golf.
No, I didn't have
No.
that. And Castle of Illusion, I'm sure.
Yes.
And I just remember playing those at your house, and I think your brother came over, and he's like looking at the graphics. He's like, "Wow, those are better than Nintendo." And Dave's just sitting there. Yeah, they are. Next thing I know, Dave sold his Nintendo, and he has a Genesis.
Yeah, I had to be, you know, cutting edge.
Yeah.
But, you know, of course, I lived to regret that day because, you know,
No.
the Nintendo is...
You can't regret getting
Oh.
a Genesis.
Well, I don't regret getting a Genesis, but I regret selling my Nintendo. High school, you know, if you're lucky, you have a part-time job, which I didn't. You know, my parents were about to spring money on another system. But,
Yeah.
So, you guys came together. You produced your first episode. Now, how do you go about planning an episode out? Like your theme, like, you know, games that should have stayed in Japan, or, you know, favorite FMV games or whatnot. How does the creation of an episode come about?
Well, we actually have a list of ideas that we keep, like, on a Dropbox that we both share, and you know, we either add to it or take it off if we don't like it, and we just, you know, bounce ideas off of each other, like, you know, basically a theme, like, okay, you know, TurboGrafx shooters. Let's talk about all the TurboGrafx shooters we can get a hold of, or stuff like
and
that.
like, what do you have in your collection? What do you have in yours? Pick 4 or 5 games you want to talk about, and I'll pick 4 or 5 that I don't want to talk about, and if there's leftovers, we'll put them in a montage of some sort. And so, you know, we'll each play the games, of course, and write up our thoughts on them, and at that same time record the video footage for the show, and then I hand that stuff over to Joe, and he takes the production from there. So,
yeah, when he means video footage, he means like recording the gameplay.
Recording the gameplay,
So,
right.
yeah, so, like, I used to record all the gameplay for all the episodes, and then I was just like, oh man, this is just too much work. And so I found a device at my house that I wasn't using, and I brought it up here to Dave's,
Yeah.
and we hooked it up to his computer so he can record gameplay footage for games he's more familiar with or that he has.
Yeah.
And just take some of the load off of me, which is really helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
And but I don't let him record any Genesis games because his Genesis does not have S-video out.
No, just
And,
original composite.
Yeah, so, and mine does, so I record all the Genesis games and TurboGrafx games. And I think you can record those.
Yeah, I do. You know, because that converter that I use maxes out at an S-video quality, you know, recording. So, you know, I'll do it, even though the Nintendo is
Yeah,
Super
you can do that.
Nintendo, we'll even do GameCube down in S-video. Well, no. Ooh.
Well, I usually do GameCube and S-video.
Yeah.
I can record it in component.
He
but
just wants to
it's-
show it on his level. He doesn't want people to think that it's actually, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just recording with component on that thing is just kind of tough. But I've done it. So
But so that's how that process works. We'll get together and write up our own little things for the 4 or 5 games we're going to talk about, and then pass it along, and then we'll
through email.
Yeah.
And just
And then have the script, you know, about what we're going to say on camera, you know, to introduce each segment, and then we'll go down to Joe's house because that's where everything is, you know, for the most part. It's a green screen and all the recording equipment. So take it from there.
Yep. We usually do everything on usually a Thursday night, and over the course of maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
We really throw these things together. I mean, I hope it doesn't seem like that, but like we usually only see each other for 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
And just record. We do the video recording of us, you know, sitting on the stools or whatever it may be, and then after that we record all the dialogue that goes over the gameplay footage, and then I kick him out of his house and I lock the door and hope he doesn't come back. Then I take out the cans of air conditioner.
Yeah.
So with all the gameplay footage you record, about how far through a game do you play it and record before you go and edit it to the episode?
Good question. It really depends on the game. I personally like getting as much footage as I possibly can, because if I've only had like 2 or 3 stages, it makes it really tough. And I'm yelling at Dave saying, I need another stage or something like that. And Dave's like, I don't care, you go to hell.
You're not my...
recently.
Like your mic's cutting in and out there.
Just talking quiet.
Oh well. So what do you do when it comes to getting game footage for those really bad, frustrating games? How long do you usually play those for?
Really pissed off.
Yeah, you know, I mean, stuff like that. We'll actually even, I hate to say it, look for like level select codes because you know you don't really want to.
Well, sometimes you can't. Like I play as far as I can on like the normal difficulty. Sorry. And
You're excused.
Started to vomit there when I thought about some of those games. But I play on normal difficulty, and if there's a level select code, then I'll use it just to get footage of an upper stage, just to add a little bit more spice in the editing. And if not, well, I guess I'm stuck.
Now,
I mean, it's, of course, we want to, like Joe said, get as much of a level as possible, or levels, you know, to show some variety. You know, you can't just do a whole segment on, you know, like here's the first level, and you know, that's it. Good luck.
Someone ditched their girlfriend to watch.
All right.
man, you got some dedicated fans. I think I saw on your YouTube video when you were talking about the show tonight that someone was canceling their heart surgery.
Heart surgery. I think I saw someone canceling their wedding.
Man, I wish I had fans like that. So, moving on. How often do you go out and, let's say, buy new games to, you know, just to throw into an episode? Like, if you have an idea that comes to mind.
Yeah, actually, quite often. I think we haven't done the episode yet. I don't know. It's not in the cards right now, but I know Dave recently bought Donkey Kong Country 3 or something. Or wait,
yeah, that was for you know.
Oh yeah, we already did that.
Yeah, we did that. You know, we did the whole Donkey Kong Country series, and that was the one I was missing. So you know, I searched. There's some local game stores here that actually are really good and carry a lot of older systems and games. So I was able to find one, and so to use on the show. So we pick it up if we can. You know, definitely try to stay away from eBay, but you know, there's a lot of local older games that we can kind of get our hands on.
And so. I don't know if this will excite anyone out there or not, but I've been recently beefing up my Nintendo 64 collection because eventually we will dedicate an episode to that system.
Yay!
And yeah.
All right, just a shout out to G1 Caboose here. Yes, later in the show we will be taking questions from the audience, so be patient.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
So, actually, yeah, when you were talking about Donkey Kong Country 3, yeah, I remember that episode. I actually just recently watched it. You were talking about the series along with Valis, and I was very, very disappointed you didn't talk about the Valis porn games.
Oh, well, we did.
Actually, no, I'm very happy you didn't, because I remember this from a few years ago. I was actually looking to see if they continued the series, and I found out that Telenet actually sold the license and rights of the Valis series to another company, which in turn remade the first game into a hentai game. And I just did an epic facepalm right then and there.
Right, yeah. That's all you need to know.
So, now, in terms of the video
back now.
production segment of the show, like, about how long do you think it takes for you to do it? Like, what do you do in terms of, like, you know, making a blue screen or green screen background effect, to the music you choose, to, you know, the stop motion, like, video segments that you shoot and stuff like that?
Well, my girlfriend and I, unfortunately she's not here tonight because she didn't get off work early enough, but we built a room in the basement just to, well, not just to shoot GameStack, because she does some stuff down there as well, but it's primarily used for GameStack. And we've got one whole entire wall now as a green screen, and we've got the lights taped on the floor or marked with tape to where they go for GameStack, so we can light the green screen, and then we got another light and all that other good stuff. And then we did the voice recording in that same room, which is pretty much soundproof. So, like I said earlier, it only takes probably about 2 hours, depending on the complexity of the episode or how often we're messing up.
Right,
but we mess up a lot.
But the editing, the light doing
then
stop motion.
Then I'm getting to that.
Oh, well.
And,
to the chase.
And that kind of stuff, the stop motion, you know, the shots of the games going into the systems. I sometimes do even before Dave comes down to record, or if it's just a shot of a cartridge going into the system, then I'll shoot that like as I'm editing. Like, oh, I guess I need that shot right here. I'll go downstairs and shoot it. But the stop motion stuff, like all the stuff I did with the Atari Jaguar and the Super Graphics, I was doing that stuff for like at least a week before we even recorded the episode, and it takes forever. One picture, move, one picture, and then take that all into After Effects and just have fun with it. That stuff takes a while, but the actual editing, probably, if I would probably say each episode probably takes about maybe 10 hours of editing. I would say.
Yeah, Joe, is very good at what he does. So, I think he's got it down pat, so he knows the exact process for every episode and what he wants where. So he knows what clips to cut, and I think the hardest part for him is probably when we're reading our dialogue for each game. Of course, we're not going to read it perfect every try. We mess up quite a bit, and so he has to listen to each little snippet of parts that we mess up. So he's got to sit there and listen and cut, out the crap that we, so I think that probably is a good 7 of the 10 hours he uses that.
No, I usually edit the audio like the first night just because I want to get that out of the way, because that's the biggest chore.
Yeah, I think that it was.
But it's something that a lot of people don't know in regards to the dialogue going over, when we're talking over video games, is sometimes we'll have a good take that's, good on the first part of the sentence, and another good on the last part of the sentence, and there's, whatever, but I'll cut the sentences in half, or, even mid-word, I'll stitch them together so they're actually 2 or 3 different sentences comprising one sentence. I hope I'm explaining that.
Well, you are, but that just goes to show how seamless it is that, even though he's chopping it up that much, it still sounds like we're coming through as, we're just a one-time read-through.
Now, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So with the making of a whole episode, just how much hardware is involved outside of your game consoles themselves in making an episode? Hearing you talk about your green screen and what other equipment is involved.
Okay.
Well, he's got he switches back between 2 cameras, borrowing one for three cameras.
Got the Canon 7D, which we've used it's a DSLR, which we've shot most of the episodes with, except the first one we shot with the Canon XL1, which I've had for 500 years.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend recently got a Canon 5D Mark II, and also have been using, because my boss, I'm a video editor by trade, has lent me his new camera, which, because basically what we do is we shoot stuff for clients and edit them and blah, blah, blah. But he's let me borrow his brand new camera over the summer just so I can get familiar with it. And it's a Canon 8XF100. And so we've probably shot the last 4 or 5 episodes with that.
So the 3 cameras, then he's got 2 microphones. The one that we record our dialogue in, the one that he records the actual our on-camera.
We've got a Rode shotgun mic. You see those a lot. A lot of people have those Rode shotgun mics. There's one behind this computer monitor that we're not using, but and then a Zoom H4n we record our dialogue into for the segments.
And just other than that, the lighting equipment, you have.
If Jen's watching this, as she heard me refer to her as just the girlfriend.
Yeah, you're in trouble. So there's a few pieces of equipment. It's nothing major. I mean, if we need to, and we have shot episodes up here at my house, so the stuff is luggable. Within 2 bags and 3 tripods per se. So it's not hugely overwhelming. So it's stuff we can move around.
Yeah, Dave doesn't have soundproofing walls or the...
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm waiting for my GameStack income to start rolling in.
So, now going back to the just the recent FMV episode you just shot, how did you downgrade the quality of the video to reflect that of a Sega CD.
I didn't. What happened? We shot the video like normal on the XF100, and I got into a guy I met on 16.com as Brian Van Buren. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I hope he wants you to pronounce it.
Anyway, he's good at coding, and so I got in touch with him and did a few tests back and forth. I was like, oh, this is great, and so he took everything and squished it down to the Sega CD level of quality so it could actually play on the Sega CD. And then we went back and forth a few times, and something we were both happy with. And then I burned the CD, played it on my Sega CD, recorded into the computer. Well, no, he used Dropbox.
Here, can you roll back just a little bit? Your camera's cutting out. Your mic's cutting out again.
Well, the last thing I said was asking him how he transfers files to this guy to work.
Okay.
Take it to this big CD format.
His name is Brian.
This guy that probably doesn't want his name mentioned on the internet, but
just some dude on the street.
Some dude.
Hey, dude.
But, how he got that transferred, and how they could work back and forth, because I imagine the video sizes aren't, small, but.
Well, I put it on my website, the original video files.
And then he
the Sega CD files, it was only like 60 megabytes.
Yeah, once you pull them. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, CD technology at its finest. So, now that your episodes are seemingly getting longer, to the point where you're practically making almost half-hour videos in and of themselves, they started off, being about 15 minutes or so. Are you pretty much just expanding more about what you want to talk about in the episode? Like you're doing like maybe 4 to 5 games you talk about, or is it just what just comes out? Like you really write it into the script after that? I'm sorry if that sounded confusing.
The episodes are basically as long as they need to be. After I've edited everything, I go back and watch it once or twice, and sometimes I'll take something else, like, that comment is stupid, I sound too whiny when I said that, so that comment's gone. And but I like to get them to be over 15 minutes if possible, so that's like my minimum that I want an episode to be. And I'd like to keep them under a half hour. If they go over a half hour, then they go over a half hour. But overall, I'd like them to be about 20-ish minutes for the most part.
And I think when we went from a weekly to a bi-weekly schedule, it was easier to expand the episodes because we had a little bit more time to elaborate on, the games and what we wanted to say about them and whatnot. It just didn't feel like we're rushing stuff and just the last second putting stuff in there. So I think that was another factor that helped lengthen these things. So. But so far, everybody seems to like it. I've only had one person actually say, you know what, they're too long, and I told him, you know what, well, watch it in 2 sittings. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Okay.
So.